as grow up in the neighborhood, you get exposed to more and more and more, especially when you're dealing with the dark side. It's like, it's going to get darker. It don't get brighter, it gets darker. So you go from the bikes, went from stealing bikes to stealing cars. Went from carrying knives to carrying guns, so it's like you just get pulled further and further in. The older cats, they would send you on little, suicide missions. They'll send you on some stuff that they wouldn't do, but they'll send you because you don't have sense enough to know that how it can really happen, But you're so busy trying to please and get that attention and get gas because they be gassing you up and as a youngster. And I don't know if it was so much that or if it was just the stuff that was already inside that made me want to do more. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't just put it all on them because I chose to do what I was doing. And they would ask you to do a lot of stuff that wasn't bright. Getting in is easy. You know what I'm saying? It's the coming out that's the difficult part. So some of the things that they had us doing, we wasn't really promised to come out of it. You know what I mean? We wasn't promised to come out of it. So we did stuff that from the outside looking in, it was like, you gonna do that? Did you think about that? Or, but you really didn't. It was plans that they had and we just were like the foot soldiers. I remember it was a house that we were supposed to go in and rob and whatever. And it was supposed to be an empty house. And when we got in, it was an old lady in there. And we had on like masks, ski masks and gloves, stuff like that. When the lady saw us and we saw her, it was like I felt a pain that I hadn't really felt because it was like she had like my grandmother's eyes. I felt like my grandmother looking at me. And then the fear that was in her eyes because we had ski masks and gloves and whatever, so she probably, she could have had a heart attack, anything. If you put a mask on and you look in the mirror, you scare yourself. And in a lot of people's cases, that's the last thing they saw was that ski mask, It was like, it kind of made you think like, that's somebody else's grandmother. But it looked like mine in the eyes. You see what I'm saying? So it was kind of like, when I saw her, it was just like my grandmother seeing me do it. Would you be happy? You know what I'm saying? Would she be happy? So it kind of like messed me up because I felt like I let her down. I felt like I was hurting her, or I felt like, how would you feel if somebody was doing that to your grandmother? You know what I'm saying? It was just like, it was a whole lot of feelings that I felt, and it was all bad. So I just, I left. That was my last, the running up into my house. That was a bad look. To me, that was just like grimy. That was just a step above snatching the lady's purse. You know what I'm saying? So it made me feel like that. So that messed me up. I was done with the houses and all that. That was it for me. And and I let that be known that I was done. And so they couldn't send me on those. I said it. I stood on it. Stealing cars, selling weed, I like that. I was comfortable there. You know what I mean? Because that was just me, the cars, the weed, the people, whatever. I wasn't running up in nobody's grandmama's house. You know what I'm saying? But I can remember stealing a car, and before we dropped it off, we would always go through the cars to make sure, we wasn't leaving money on the table. We had a situation where, with a body shop where they had a list of cars and colors and prices that they would pay for those particular cars in that color, that year, that make. So we found one on the list and got it. And before we dropped it off, we went through it and we found, some packages in the trunk that we couldn't really identify, but we took them anyway. And we found out later when we dropped them off with Ump that it was actually cocaine.